I know we're getting a late start. Some of you might understand that there are sometimes traffic problems in Gurgaon. And we're feeling the effects of that, of course. Well, my name is Steve Edwards, and I'm one of the co-founders of Vega. And we are extremely excited to have all of you here this evening, to have the opportunity to experience education on a global scale. We have a Master of Ceremonies this evening, our moderator, Natasha. Many of you will know her from NDTV. She has 15 years of experience with the TV station, and her focus has been in education and youth, with a primary interest in startups and entrepreneurship. So at this time, I'd like to bring Natasha to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Very often, both as a parent and, of course, as a citizen of India, I have wondered, what are we teaching our kids? How are we teaching our kids? We've sort of come to this stage where we love blaming the system, but hand on heart, I'm sure most of us, all of us, I hope, would agree that we're all part of the system, and the change really begins with us. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but it's really true. And that's what I hope that all of us will take away from this evening, the fact that there are some new ideas, that there's no one size fits all, and that's the beauty of education, that there's so much that every learner has to offer, there's so much that every teacher has to offer. We just have to make the connect and sort of think of these out-the-box ideas, some of which we're going to be hearing over the evening, and just how they can change generation after generation as we know it. Thank you all so much for taking our time to be here this evening. I'm just going to call on Lene Lange from Denmark to just take us through what this evening is all about, and of course the Global Schools Alliance in particular, and what we here in India can learn from them and their experience. Lene.
Thank you, Natasha. And thank you everyone for coming tonight. It really means a lot to us that you will lend us your ear tonight, because this is something that goes deep with us. It's truly important. The Global Schools Alliance is a culmination of a dream of bringing some of the most progressive schools in the world together. And this is what has happened this week in Delhi. So we have the group of principals sitting down here, and it's been such a pleasure to spend the last 3 days with you, locked in a meeting room and discussing all sorts of things we're going to do together. All of us deeply believe that education needs to change. Our shared dream is actually a simple one. It's about a better world for all of us, a world in which students will grow up and have the knowledge, the skills and the confidence to become entrepreneurs of their own lives, to become thoughtful innovators of tomorrow, because we need that in today's world. This does not happen in schools across the globe today. The one-size-fits-all model is continuously being pushed at children every day, regardless of what they're interested in, regardless of what their talents and passions might be and what would be helpful for them in their lives, and regardless of what the world needs today. We live in a globalized, connected world, and I'm sure that a lot of you in the audience, you're interacting with colleagues in other countries, probably on a daily basis. I know I am, and I know I'm from Denmark. I know surgeons in Copenhagen would interact with a surgeon in Delhi. I know architects in New Zealand would interact with engineers in New York. It's really important that we are able to work together across the globe, also to meet the challenges that we are faced with today. So we're wondering, why is it that the teaching profession is not an international profession? And why is it that being a student is not an international occupation? We want to change that. So our schools, we've decided to work together. Our students will be collaborating. They will be working on shared projects. They will be each other's audience for what they have learned, for solutions they come up with, for challenges that they take on. Our teachers will be sharing best practices. We have, as I mentioned, some of the most progressive, mind-blowing schools here, and it's a true pleasure spending time with all of you. And what we're doing is to also push each other to continue to challenge what education can be. So tonight you're going to get a small glimpse of what they're about, each of them. and you will discover that they have different answers to the challenges of education today, but we all share the dream of changing things. And we've actually been blessed the last couple of days with the presence of 2 interns from Teach for India. Are you nearby, Radhika and Kamna? Please come up here, because no better way than of introducing maybe than listening to a couple of really talented young people who has helped us out in documenting our discussions, and through that have also learned about these schools. So what do they look like, these schools, through the eyes of a student? That is what I will leave to you to share. And thank you all again for coming. It's truly a pleasure, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and questions later. So thanks.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you all can hear me. Just before I start, both Kamna and I are extremely nervous public speakers, and we absolutely hate coming up on stage. But because of what we experienced in these past 3 days, we really felt the need to come up and share with you just what we've witnessed unfold during the symposium. So 3 days ago, both Kamna and I landed in Delhi, very, very excited and also slightly intimidated at the prospect of documenting this ambitious event. Just to give you a little context, both of us are a product of a 4-year liberal arts program in the United States, which for me, and I was a traditional CBSE student, did my schooling from DPS Arkipuram, and that was a life-changing, very radical experience. And now both of us work at Teach for India, an NGO that dreams of a day that all children in India will attain an excellent education. And I think that, you know, these 3 days we've just witnessed endless conversations and discussions of what an excellent education really means. And that for us points to the relevance of that question, not just to GSA or educators, but all of us gathered here today. So parents, students, just the wider ecosystem at large. And we've just left completely inspired, amazed, and with a renewed sense of purpose that we can collectively just co-create the future of education in India and hopefully unleash the potential in every child in this country and hopefully in the world.
And to further illustrate that, I'd like to talk to one of my experiences as a student. Now, I attended what is touted as one of the best public high schools in the United States. In 9th grade, we were given a project where we had to integrate biology, English, and technology in order to present our findings on water testing. So we used our experimental methods from biology, the statistical analysis tools we'd learned in technology, and packaged that all together with great expository writing in what we thought was an exemplar of teamwork, of student initiative, and of learning by doing. That was before I came to Delhi and met these incredible school leaders who run even more incredible schools. I realized my education, my world-class education, had just been the tip of the iceberg. To illustrate my point, I'd like to draw upon an example from the Vega School in Cambodia, if I may. The students there embarked on a project to create a welcome center for their school. In order to do this, they had to create a 3D model of the school itself using printing. And they found through the process that they had to learn the ins and outs of technology. They had to learn how to write a good description. They had to learn the science of construction. They had to integrate all these subjects together in order to create a real-world end product. I'd like you all to now take a second to ponder on the subtle but stark beauty of this difference. They realized integration was necessary not because of an imposition of the requirements of their project, but rather because it arose as a need that they foresaw when they created this end product. This isn't bringing reality into the confines of a classroom. It's actually taking learning out into the world of reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really enlightening. This is why they say that so much of learning that students do, that learners do, happens outside the classroom. That is as important as the learning that we insist happen in the classroom. I know for those of you familiar with the Indian system, you would know that we're now in a space where it's 100% or nothing. You're either getting 100% to make it into what are our Ivy League institutions, or you're being left out. We're being told that there are students who are finishing their schooling and are ending up with a 95%, that's basically 95 and 100 as an average in all their subjects. And there is depression, there is anxiety, and there's much sort of hand-wringing and chest beating on where do we go from here. We missed out on the best institutions, and the fact that we only have a handful of them in India doesn't help either. So just to underscore, that's why we are here, to try and learn how some of these schools that we're talking about have implemented their best practices. I'd like to call on 5 of the GSA schools now to take us through their examples, starting with Melissa Daniels, a high-tech from San Diego. But just one moment before we do that, and this is sort of an exciting bit that we have to the evening before we get the schools to present. I'd like to ask you what words or images perhaps come to mind when you think about the best schools, think about outstanding education, or where you would like your loved ones to study, to sort of get the experience from. Now, this is for both children and adults, and it's sort of something that I thought was very unique about this evening. All of you have paper and crayons and pens on at your tables. We just like you to sort of write a bit and perhaps illustrate as well on the images, like I'm saying, that come to mind when you think about these outstanding schools. What does an outstanding school look like? Because we all have these boxes, we all have these sort of, these boxes, like I said, where things must fit. If she's pretty, she fits like this. If he's handsome, he looks like this. If it's a perfect school, it looks like what? So that's what we'd like to hear from you. If you can sort of just use that paper, pens, crayons, etc. at your desk and sort of show us what is the image that comes to mind. Anything, whatever comes to mind first, that would be great.
Response to the question, and members of the Vega team will be collecting those from you and posting those on the boards to my right, your left. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the arrival of the Minister of Education from Haryana, Mr. Bilas Sharma. We are very fortunate to have him here. Haryana is one of the most progressive districts or states in the country with education. We will be hearing more from him later, but I just wanted to recognize his arrival and thank him for taking time out of his very, very busy schedule to be with us this evening. Thank you. I'll now turn the program back over to Natasha.
Thanks, Steve. It's really wonderful. I've sort of walked around some tables, and it's wonderful to see the creativity on display. And like Steve said, they'll be collecting your little works of art and your thoughts in a bit and putting them out there. It's of course going to be of great value, I'm sure, as we try and understand just what a holistic education is all about. Increasingly, we're seeing the system in India, the education system in India being challenged. We're seeing a lot of focus on what we are calling the business of education and the need to break away from it. This evening is also about challenging ourselves, about new thoughts, about radical ideas. When I first heard about schools without classrooms, I thought that's perfect in a world without borders. What else do you need? I mean, it's just a perfect fit. But how close are we, and how much of this really is utopian? How much of this is practical? There are some schools and some teachers who've shown the way, shown what radical thinking, what out-of-the-box ideas, and what best practices are all about. We have some of them here, and now it's time for the presentations. I'll call them one after the other. If we can first call upon Melissa Daniels, High-Tech High from San Diego, for their 5-minute presentation on what they did that they believe set them apart and what we can take away from their experience and ideas.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Daniels, and I am a school leader from High-Tech High Schools in San Diego, California, and I am very honored to be with all of you here tonight. We're actually going to start the school presentations with a short video that is from a documentary called Most Likely to Succeed. We hope this video clip will provide some context for all of our school presentations tonight, and we're we're flattered that the film features High Tech High as an example of a progressive school and a more progressive approach to education.
2006 and more recently, and underemployment rate is approaching 50%, 50%. About half of that group have no job. The other half of that group have jobs that don't require a college diploma. What's wrong with this picture? They don't have any skills.
And part of the problem is the current systems of education are rooted in the old industrial economy of the 19th century. They're not rooted in the new economies of the 21st century. It's why so many employers are complaining that the kids who do well in education still don't have the right skills or attitudes or dispositions to fill the vacancies they actually have.
So what is everyone looking for? They're looking for people who can do critical thinking and problem solving, ... in order to get an interview. Critical thinking and problem solving are really table stakes today. They assume you've got that. What everyone's really looking for are people who can not only do their job, but invent, reinvent, and re-engineer their job while they're doing it.
The advice that I give to parents of almost any age kid is to spend a lot less time obsessing about the 3 R's. And by the way, only one of those 3 R's actually starts with an R, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But we drill those skills into people. Those are relatively routine skills, and they are very quickly being digitized. We've got computers that can beat the best human Jeopardy players. We've got cars that can drive themselves. We finally got humanoid robots in our factories. We've got robots that drive the shelves around the warehouse so the people don't have to walk. We've got robots that can run up slippery, icy hills. We're seeing science fiction technologies become everyday reality.
The world is in a very different place. With a knowledge and innovation-driven economy, knowledge is a given. Employers over and over say, well, I'll teach them the content they need. But what I can't teach them is how to think, how to communicate, how to collaborate, how to initiate.
So the film, Most Likely to Succeed, goes on to feature the work of High Tech High, but tonight I just wanted to share a few highlights of the work that we do. High Tech High began in 2000 with 1 high school in San Diego, and now we are 13 schools from K to 12 on 3 campuses in San Diego. And we have a very intentionally diverse student population. And